Saw Suzanne Tuttle's name.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk, could take the roll, please.
Commissioner Look.
Here.
Commissioner Brastad. Here. Commissioner Kordiak.
Here.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Here.
Commissioner West. Here. Commissioner Schulte.
Here.
First item is tax claims and abatements. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and from Human Services. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Then we have the approval of the minutes from the April 26th County Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We have two items today under Chair's remarks. The first is to recognize the critical and compassionate work done by the county's 144 current foster homes and providers. But before we meet a few of our families, I want to just walk you through how critically important this network is to our ability to care for and protect our children. In Anoka County in 2015, 350 children were placed with non-relative foster care providers. Another 107 children were placed with relatives in foster care at some point during the year. In Minnesota in 2015, of the nearly 15,000 Minnesota children who experienced out-of-home care last year, 83% were placed in a family foster setting. The children are remaining in foster care longer, and more children are being placed in foster care. Foster parents provide critical care and nurturing. They come from all walks of life. They may be single or married, with or without children. They share a concern for children and adults with disabilities and a commitment to helping them through the tough times. We want to thank the 144 foster homes who are currently providing care to children within our community, and the 60 homes and 125 corporate foster homes who are caring for adults, seniors, and youth with disabilities in our community. Anoka County appreciates your willingness to care and your compassion shown to children, their families, and individuals with disabilities living in foster care homes. You are the ones that are there when they need you most, and we so appreciate your willingness to open up your homes and your hearts in order to provide that unconditional love that so many unfortunately don't receive in their own homes. I'd like to ask Jerry Peterson to come forward and introduce us to staff who guide the program and the providers who are really the ones that are at the heart of all of this. Jerry?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Jerry Peterson, Director of Community Social Services and Behavioral Health. Thank you so much for the opportunity for myself and our staff to be able to recognize individuals that are so important to the work of all the needs that come through our doors at the county. As we know, there are many needs, and we know some of those situations are extremely difficult. And this is one of those times where I can get a little emotional, just because of the fact that to see the faces of the individuals that are so important in the lives of those children that come into our child protection services and respond and meet the needs of those kids, and many times as a moment noticed, and then hang in there and do it day after day. And then also for the many adults with disabilities that are serviced through our foster care as well. So thank you just for this opportunity and being able to do this. At this time, I want to introduce Suzanne Tuttle, and as the manager of Children and Family Services, oversees the foster care area, and so she's going to introduce the foster care providers that are here. So Suzanne?
Okay, Madam Chair and members of the board, Community Social Services would like to recognize the foster care providers in attendance today and express our absolute heartfelt appreciation for the care that they have provided to children and families. So when I call your name, if you would stand and then stay standing with the others. Brenda Thomas has provided child foster care for actually 22 years, and sadly she is retiring from that duty. But Brenda has been providing foster care since 2001 in Anoka County and has been an emergency home for most of those years, which means she takes the kids in the middle of the night. And she has had 510 children placed in her care. So thank you, Brenda. Wendy and Andy Picton are child foster care providers. The Pictons have just recently been licensed as foster care providers. 2 children have been placed in their home after the family stepped forward to care for them as kin placements. Thank you both. Rick McCullough is a kin foster care provider. He's in the back with his grandson, Caden. Mr. McCullough is caring for Caden in his home. Thank you very much. And Amani and Ramona Assad are adult foster care providers. The Assads have been licensed since 2008 and provide services to adults, many who also receive waiver-funded services for mental health or disability issues. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the board for the opportunity to recognize foster care providers this month. And I also would like to say a quick thank you to the foster care staff, many of whom are here today. Thank you.
Well, and again, thank you so much to the wonderful staff that you are definitely at the front line and in trying to find the right placement for children and matching some of their needs with the homes that are willing to, the people who are willing to open their homes to children and adults. So thank you for the work that you do. And thank you again to our wonderful foster care providers. It is not an easy job at all. And I know that there just are a lot of challenges that go along with it. And the fact that you're willing to do that is just, you are really the best of what our community has to offer. So again, thank you so much. So commissioners, please join me in supporting Resolution 2016-54, proclaiming May 2016 as Foster Care Provider Month in Anoka County. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Our second item under Chair's remarks today is the annual report from the Anoka County Medical Examiner, Dr. Quinn Strobel. This is a very busy office which serves the needs of 19 counties with 3 pathologists. Dr. Strobel.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for having me, and I apologize. Am I advancing my slides, or does it happen magically? Let's see. There we go. Thanks. So can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Just so you can see, again, as was mentioned, our office is very busy, and we do serve 19 counties now. We welcomed St. Louis County, Douglas County, Minnesota, and Chippewa County, Minnesota last year in 2015. And as you can see, there was quite a bump in the total number of cases that our office investigated last year, from 4,617 to 6,157. Next slide, please. And then correspondingly, of course, the total number of autopsies has increased from 574 to 746. And again, with the same number of forensic pathologists, we have 3. And we'll hold, go back. Thank you. Now I'm just going to go over just the general Anoka County statistics for 2015. So these are deaths that occurred in Anoka County that our office investigated. And then, so last year for Anoka County, our office investigated 1,589 total cases. And of those, we performed 154 autopsies. And I'm just going to highlight, I think you can all see we have a new format this year, trying to make it more statistically apparent, where instead of burying the numbers within some text, we're just trying to put the numbers out. So for the natural deaths, we performed 48 autopsies, and the majority of, as is typical, of people who died suddenly or unexpectedly under the medical examiner's jurisdiction died of a form of heart disease or cardiovascular disease. In 2015, there were 11 motor vehicle fatalities, including 4 motorcyclists, 1 pedestrian motor vehicle incident, and 1 pedestrian train incident. The average age of the decedents was 0 to 84 years, and to explain the 0, there was a mother who was in a car crash and her fetus died. Alcohol was present in 5 incidents, 4 drivers and 1 pedestrian. For the accidents which were not associated with a motor vehicle, there were 37 that were autopsied. The average age was about 42. The age range was 5 to 72, and the 5-year-old died in a house fire. 2 decedents were younger than age 21, including the 5-year-old. Unfortunately, the majority of those were drug, alcohol, or substance abuse deaths, which there were 26 that were autopsied. Of the accidents that did not require an autopsy, the majority of those were in the elderly population and were due to complications of falls from standing or sitting or bed height, typically due to a hip fracture. The other death classifications were various forms of blunt force injuries, as well as drugs, alcohol, and substance abuse. Now for the numbers, and again, the total number of drugs or incidents below, someone may have had more than one substance in their system, so we can't just add those together. But alcohol was present in 10 incidents, methamphetamine was present in 9, and we know that heroin was present in 5. However, immediately below that, morphine was also present in 5. Morphine is a metabolite of heroin, and sometimes the heroin molecule is gone, and all we have left is morphine. So some of those may be heroin deaths that we just can't prove. Cocaine was present in 5 incidents, methadone also in 5, and then various other opiates and opioids. And then the next slide, please. Thank you. We can see here the total substance abuse related deaths, again, not including the alcohol or motor vehicle crashes. You can see there was a bit of a peak in 2012. Well, 2013 is pretty close. It has seemed to taper off a little bit, but this year's not looking very good. In Anoka County, there were 4 homicides investigated, and again, the homicides that we see is where the death occurs in Anoka County. Sometimes somebody is injured in Anoka County and they might be transported to Hennepin County to a hospital, so we wouldn't see those. The ones our office saw, there were 4. The average age was 33. All decedents were male. 2 individuals were shot by law enforcement. There was 1 domestic incident and then 1 stranger-related shooting. Of the suicide deaths, there were 55, a little bit of an increase over last year. And as is typical through all of our counties, males far outnumber females. Alcohol was present in 9 cases, and 2 decedents were less than 21 years of age. There was a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old. The majority of the deaths were due to gunshot wounds, and then second to that, that's out of order, are drug overdoses and ligature hangings. 3 deaths were classified as undetermined. An undetermined manner of death is used when after full autopsy, scene investigation, and law enforcement investigation, the manner of death cannot be proven to greater than 50% certainty. So 1 incident involved the co-sleeping death of a 5-month-old infant. It could not be proved whether maybe there was positional or an overlay with the history that we had. A 53-year-old man drowned, and we were unclear whether this was an accident or intentional death. And then the death of a 77-year-old man who had recent head trauma, also had significant underlying disease, but he may or may not have been involved in an assault. So that also was undetermined. There were 4 incidents where bones were found, and all, fortunately, of these bones were deemed non-human. And then lastly, of all of the deaths, we investigated some of those are cremation onlys, and obviously some people are a case number and also cremated, and therefore our office approved 1,249 cremations last year. And so I guess we can skip to the end slide. I think there's just the closer, but it's been a good year, it's been a busy year, and it's an honor, as always, to serve as your medical examiner, and if anybody has any questions for me.
Anyone have any questions? No? I just want to thank you for the great work that you do with such professionalism and respect for those who have lost their lives and for the families who are grieving in the process. We just really appreciate the way that you handle all of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So that concludes Chair's remarks. Now we will move on to committee reports, beginning with Management Committee. Okay, so there's no Management Committee. That's my mistake. We'll move on to Transportation Committee. Commissioner Schulte.
We met on Monday, May 2nd here in the Government Center, and I have 6 items for your attention. First, the committee would recommend approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the City of Andover for the future reconstruction of a right turn lane at 2677 Bunker Lake Boulevard in conjunction with the city's redevelopment plans for the parcel.
Their motion to approve. Their second.
Second.
Further discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will just point this out, that they did have a groundbreaking on that site in the last couple of days. They're building a new, really high-end office building there, which will be a nice addition to Andover and Anoka County. And we just wanted to make sure that there was enough room left for this turn lane and that we could get this turn lane installed when the time is right.
Okay, thank you. And roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak. Aye. Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends approval of Amendment Number 1 to a purchase of service agreement with SRF for additional services for the Highway 10 Armstrong interchange in the amount of $79,000.
Motion.
Move it.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends award of contract to Sir Lines-A-Lot in the amount of $246,436.35 for the placement of high-visibility pavement markings on Coon Rapids Boulevard from Blackfoot Street to the Highway 10 and 47 ramps in the city of Coon Rapids.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Madam
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to comment, I was in Michigan last week and driving in the dark in a very rainy situation, and you could not see the white lines. It was very, I mean, I became a believer. So I'm just pleased about that.
And Madam Chair, I just wanted to comment that Sir Lines-A-Lot is a great name for a company, and, but that is not why we selected them. There will be reflective pavement markings, but they are not the true wet reflective pavement markings. And the reason for that is Coon Rapids Boulevard is heavily lit. It's, many would say there's light pollution on Coon Rapids Boulevard, but I would be one to say that it's well lit for safety, and therefore the reflective is important, but wet reflective is not.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Commissioner West. Aye. Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item.
The committee recommends award of contract to North Valley Incorporated in the amount of $6,707,007.34 for the Anoka County Overlay Program.
There a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak. Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item?
The committee recommends approval of Anoka County TMO Commute Solutions Pass-Through Grant Agreement Amendment Number 1 with the Metropolitan Council for a congestion mitigation air quality funds for the period of January 1st, 16 through December 31st of 16.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second,
Further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just for clarification, I used the acronym TMO. It's Transit Management Organization.
Transportation.
Transportation Management Organization. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item?
And lastly, in our Transit Division, the committee recommends approval of Amendment Number 1 to an Anoka County contract between Anoka County and the Metropolitan Council for funding transit link services operated by the county.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, I would remind everyone that all of these they allow the authorization of the chair of the county board and the county administrator to execute these agreements with review by the county attorney as to form and legality. And you'll see that there are 3 items for informational purposes, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte. Finance and Capital Improvements Committee report, Commissioner Look.
Madam Chair, thank you. The Finance and Capital Improvements Committee met on April 26th, and we have just one informational item. The topic that we covered was courthouse remodel project, and one change to that. There was during these remodels, it's difficult to anticipate all the layout possibilities, and how you fit a new courtroom into an existing space can be difficult. And while there were some, I would say, hopeful shoehorning, there was one instance where it was not going to work out. So, small increase, it's covered by the contingency, but I will note that the contingency has been watched very closely and has not been used very much to date, which is uncharacteristic of a project this size. So, our project management team has been doing a fantastic job, and we're ahead of schedule on this project, and we're certainly receiving positive feedback from our courts. So, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Look. Now we'll move on to Information Technology Committee report. Commissioner Schulte, could you take that for Commissioner Gamache?
Certainly.
Thank you.
There is one action item. The IT committee recommends the county board approve a contract with Robert Half Technologies of Minneapolis at a rate of $100 per hour for interim services to augment resources related to critical operational support.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, you'll see under the informational items, other things we discussed, one of note, our veterans check-in process has now been requested by Carver County, another local county, and again, the usual agreements are there that if they come up with great ideas that augment it, we'd like them back, or any other software that they have that we would like. We're open to talking to them about it, and it thrills me when we're able to do this. I think collaboration across counties, whether they're in Minnesota, the metro, or whether they're across the country, it's just really the way to save taxpayers' dollars and get better products in the end.
Well, thank you, and I think it speaks volumes to the great quality, innovative work that our staff do as well. So very proud of their work.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add, I believe this is now the 8th entity that has taken advantage of that specific system related to veterans. So very exciting.
Very good. Thank you.
With that, Madam Chair, that does conclude the IT report.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to Parks and Community Services Committee report. Commissioner Kordiak.
Madam Chair, I think there's several items that require our board's attention today. Jeff Perry, I think, is going to step forward and save me on a couple of these. The first one, item, Madam Chair, is regarding a small gift of approximately $200 to the Center of the Lions Club made to the Parks Department. Cut for general use, not a specifically focused use, that use they've donated to us before to support the lake, the park, and the amenities in the area there. So we certainly would try and direct those funds to something that's useful in that vicinity.
And I'll offer the resolution. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems awful early, but in the future, we're going to have a deer hunt one day. Jeff Perry's always managed that. It's an interesting discussion. We're going to compress that a little bit in terms of the number of parks that we entertain this year, but maybe, Jeff, you can outline for us what the proposal is for this fall's deer hunting archery activity.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Jeff Perry, Park Planning and Resources Manager for Anoka County. This year's recommendation before you is at Bunker Hills Regional Park. The 2015 data reflected 36 deer per square mile, so the Parks and Recreation Department is proposing a hunt for Bunker Hills Regional Park to issue 13 permits per session for a total of 39 permits. Surprisingly, at Rice Creek Chain of Lakes this year, the deer density numbers came in at 18 deer per square mile, which is exactly within the deer management goal for that particular park reserve. So the overarching goal is to manage the population for 15 to 20 deer per square mile, and the Rice Creek Chain of Lakes came in at 18 deer per square mile. So this is the first year in approximately 25 years that we will not be recommending a hunt for Rice Creek Chain of Lakes due to the fact it's a healthy, sustainable population. And lastly, at Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park, there's 71 deer per square mile. That number is high because it's a relatively smaller park. It serves as a refuge for the deer. And we are recommending 12 permits per session for a total of 36 permits for Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park. Just as a matter of information, the process for applying applications will become available online at anokacountyparks.com and following adoption of the resolutions. And the public can download those applications and submit those to the Parks and Recreation Department, or they can be picked up at the Bunker Hills Activity Center or the Coon Rapids Dam Visitor Center as well. The only prerequisite for the hunt is to have completed a bow hunter's education course, a nationally accredited course. We do accept it from other states if folks are moving in. It just needs to be nationally accredited. And it's a lottery-based drawing, and we basically roll out the hunt from there. So with that, Bunker Hills Regional Park, there are 13 different hunt zones for Bunker Hills. And for Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park, there are 12 different hunt zones for that particular hunt. So with that, Madam Chair and Commissioners, that concludes the summary of the 2016 Deer Management Program for Anoka County.
Jeff, I have a question. When I look at the numbers for Bunker versus Coon Rapids, it appears as though the deer population density for Coon Rapids is significantly higher than Bunker, yet we're issuing approximately the same number of permits and actually less permits in Coon Rapids. Wouldn't we issue more permits in order to get closer to the goal that we're looking for?
Yeah, Madam Chair, very good question. It's based on the huntable areas and the habitat within each respective park and taking into consideration the park facilities as well. So at Bunker Hills Regional Park, we have a campground there, so we kind of stay to the perimeter of the campground area. And then the hunt zones themselves, where there are forested areas, we basically try to place a hunter about every 20 acres. And then there's wetland habitat at Bunker, whereas Coon Rapids Dam, it's exclusively oak forest. So it essentially, it's depending upon the available huntable habitat to safely place the hunters one hunter per 20 acres approximately.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer the resolution.
Okay, resolution's been offered by Commissioner Schulte. Further discussion?
I'll just comment, Madam Chair, that Jeff's done a fine job of this. It works out every year. I know of no history of any episodes in our system. People have had successful hunts. It is beneficial to the area in terms of deer strikes by cars and those kinds of things. So I think it's just been an all-out successful activity throughout the year. So I support what we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Come along, worked on Sugar Hills Regional Master Trail Plan as required, desired by the Metropolitan Council, with a few remaining large trail systems that we are working on fashioning throughout Anoka County. This is a large system that runs through now then in Oak Grove and St. Francis. We've worked with all those jurisdictions and citizens throughout time. It's a futuristic project, understand that well. A few pieces of it along the way are done in some of our city components. A great deal of it's not. It'll be done over the next many years, along with future roadway projects and so on. So, I mean, it's probably a 10-year vision approximately as we kind of unfold the trail connection pieces. But that is the proposal that we have. We're satisfied with the proposal. We would like to forward it to the Metropolitan Council for their finalization and approval, and I will offer.
Is there an offer for the resolution?
I'll offer.
Okay, resolution's been offered by Commissioner Look. Further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Look.
I just wanted to comment, while we seek the support of all the communities along the way, I think we have all but the city of Oak Grove, which is just the little 600-foot section on the north of the blue there. I didn't watch their deliberation on this, but from what I understand, they opposed the project based on the overall cost of the project. Getting this approved allows us to, first of all, we can approve it without their support, but getting this approved allows us to be able to draw from funds to be able to put these segments together. One fund that I want to specifically speak to here is on Highway 47. There's Pedersen Drive that you show is completed to the left coming in. That is a at-grade pedestrian walkway going across Highway 47. MnDOT refused to put a stoplight there, said it didn't meet merits. We have kind of flashing lights, but there's continual reports of distracted driving and people running for the ditches and things of this nature. So one of the projects that we're working on with the city of St. Francis, who, by the way, is ecstatic about this, is an underpass, or a tunnel, if you will, going under 47, which would be incorporated into this trail. And we would be able to apply for safe route to school type of funds, because there's schools on the right-hand side of the map, and the kids obviously go to McDonald's and the gas station, everywhere else underneath there. So we've done soil testing on this. We've done the water table is such that it would accommodate a tunnel underneath here. So the point I'm making is that we don't just pick a map and throw a trail down and say that, let's build this. There's a lot of thought that goes into this, and we try to build it in such a way that we're accomplishing numerous safety goals along the way, this being, I think, a critical one. And so I did want to, in full disclosure, say that Oak Grove did not approve it, but I think that the 600-foot component in their jurisdiction there, it would be a shame to torpedo the rest of the project based on that little 600-foot. I understand they're making a statement, and it is very costly. I don't disagree with them on that. But the reality is that tomorrow it's going to be even more costly. So I will be supporting this as I offered the resolution, but I did want to acknowledge and appreciate their comments on the matter. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Look.
Madam Chair, I'll just comment that in terms of costly, it isn't the short little tiny piece that's in Oak Grove. It's the entire trailway piece of multi-miles throughout the roughly $12 million project. That's futuristic, and that far of those costs will be covered by a wide variety of jurisdictions throughout the next dozen years. So it's hard to unfold how that will ultimately come together.
Madam Chair, I'll just note too, I think it's on 28, where we're following county road rebuild possibilities and that. So generally what happens as we rebuild roads, we always accommodate a trail or sidewalk depending on the density. But it's in those type of instances where incorporate along that, and it's somewhat included in the price as well, but you still identify it as a cost to it. So we try to align it where it makes sense and where there's going to be the most volume of people using it. And I think it's a great plan.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 4, a long-awaited, often talked about Coon Lake Park parking lot expansion. We're basically just expanding some parking lot there because of frequency of use. We're pleased to be able to do that. There's a future bathroom component that we'll talk about at a later point. We had very successful bids on a relatively new contractor. They're based in the area, I think Rush City. We're looking forward to working with them. We think they're a very simple and straightforward project, and so we're happy to move this project forward, and it is very well within our cost proposal for an estimate.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Cordiak.
All right.
Motion carries.
Item number 5, Madam Chair, and Jeff is nearby, but I think I can comment. We are interested in joining a forming joint powers agreement with the city of Circle Pines. They have, as you see, a cul-de-sac street there that they like to do some substantial demolition in the street and the adjoining one just off the sight lines there. And rather than pair it and do half and then the other half, they want to work on much of that project. The problem becomes other access. We have coincidentally, fortunate for them, a little parking lot and a little tiny trailway system that runs right along and through into that cul-de-sac piece. They're interested in joining us in a joint powers agreement on that. They will cover our roadway to our trailway to protect it. They will create walking lines. They're responsible for any costs and liabilities. The county attorney's taken a look at that. They're responsible for signage. And so while we feel that we're well protected, it's a very short loop for a couple of months, I think. It'll go on for the good share of the summertime until they get their project done. But obviously, it's a great benefit to them rather than figure out how they otherwise stagger traffic and construction. And we all know, we ask our own highway engineers, the difficulty of that. So I'm happy to support that, Madam Chair.
I'll move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad. Aye. Commissioner Cordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you. Finally, lastly, Madam Chair, we had some carryover from the previous Metropolitan Grant project. It was approximately $65,000 that we are able to redirect. We're in the midst of our Wargo Nature Center reconstruction, doing a variety of projects there, starting from the parking lot and working the way up to the building, the trailways, walkways, drop-off opportunities, a variety of things. So we see there's a good opportunity to redirect that $65,000 to the Wargo project from, I forget where it came from, but that's our proposal today.
I'll move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Look.
Not specifically related to this project, but related to Wargo Nature Center. My kids had attended some dissecting of something or other. I forget if it was a frog or a worm or whatever the issue was, but fantastic programming that occurs there. So it's truly a gem for our residents and those that come to use it. So
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad. Aye. Commissioner Cordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just have 2 comments. One of them is that the other remaining items are for information purposes only and there for your review. And secondarily, well, at least the 2 areas I actively work with in this field with John and others is with the recycling activities in this county. And I will remind each of you that we have our annual recognition of our municipal supporters, all 19 cities throughout Anoka County, and many, many things that they do. It's a week and a day from today on, Wednesday, May 18th, right here. And it's an opportunity to celebrate with them their accomplishments, recognize their service, thank the cities, thank the many volunteers, thank the various business and enterprises that support the activities of recycling throughout Anoka County. I will talk about the drop-off expansions that we did and the park event things that we've done a lot with, multi-unit apartment-type opportunities have been improving, our own organics program and other communities as well. So we have a lot to celebrate. You're all invited. Please plug it in your calendar if it's not, and we'll learn together where we're at today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the public hearing. I'll turn it over to Marcy King.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I will convene a public hearing to obtain public comment concerning Anoka County fees for licenses, permits, and services. A notice was published on May 3rd, 2016 in the Anoka County newspaper, it's particularly the Anoka County Record. I ask that Madam Clerk please make note of that for the record. Thank you. Patty Hetrick, the Anoka County Budget Director, has come forward, and I ask that she address the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. County Commissioners and Mr. Soma. We have fees today. There's not a lot. I'll go through each of them. For the record, my name is Patty Hetrick. I'm the Budget Director. Each of these fees has been examined by the Committee of Jurisdiction. The fees cannot be more than the actual cost, and in some cases are less. They are also comparable to other counties in our area. The first fee is from Community Health and Environmental Services. This is a blanket license event late fee. We've already approved the blanket license, but if the applicants are late, they will be assessed a $20 fee. If there are additional vendors added after that date, they will also be charged an additional $20 per vendor. Parks and Community Service. This is a cool program. Chamonix Golf Course is offering a college pass. It's for ages 18 to 25 with a valid college ID. They can go golf anytime between Monday and Friday, weekends and holidays after 1 p.m. It's valid with all men's and women's club events. The next one is property records and taxes. We sometimes have citizens or businesses that request quick mailing, and we are upping that fee to cover actual costs from $19.95 to $25. On page 2, we have the Sheriff Office requests. The first one is a firearm storage fee, and this is a fee charged to owners of firearms that are court-ordered to be surrendered as a result of criminal charge or conviction. It's a one-time $40 fee and a one-day per firearm cost. We've also added remote video visitation fee. It provides family members and friends of inmates the ability to visit with an incarcerated individual when they're not able to come on site to visit. This charge will be $10 up to one 20-minute visit. We also have an inmate email fee, incoming only. This fee allows family members and friends of inmates to send emails and electronic photographs. This fee is 5 messages and photos, $2.75 at a cost of 55 cents each. If they do 20, they get it for $10, which is a lower cost of 50 cents per piece. And 40 messages is $18 at 45 cents. This concludes our fees. Are there any questions?
Does any member of the board have any questions for Ms. Hetrick? Thank you. I now invite members of the public to come forward and address the board on the issue of Anoka County fees. Does any member of the public wish to come forward to make a comment? Does any member of the public wish to come forward to make a comment? Does any member of the public wish to come forward to make a comment? Does any member of the board have any comments to make on the proposed fees?
Madam Chair, I do have a comment. Are we discussing this after the open meeting here, or the public session?
No, this is the opportunity to discuss.
Madam Chair, looking at these fees, I just wanted to make a comment on the first one there for Community Health and Environmental Services. As I understand, the $20 fee is a late fee.
Correct.
If I understood that correctly. The original fee is $30, I think. And recently, we've had a nonprofit comment on this, and after kind of hearing their position on the matter, I having come from city council, I understand how these nonprofits work, this, whether it's Lions or Rotary or whoever. Every single dollar that they make goes directly back into the community. And so I would like to consider waiving the fees for nonprofits, considering that they don't, they don't make money on this. They actually volunteer their time, and they pick very valuable projects within communities, sometimes individuals, to help. So I understand they don't cover the cost. I'm aware of that. And I'm suggesting that I would like to see our involvement in nonprofits as a donation to them in terms of our time and effort to encourage them as they make investments in the community.
May I add one comment? The actual fees for 10 vendors or less are $60, 11 to 20 are 80, and over 20 are 80 plus $250 for each vendor, and then the slate fee would be on top of that.
Madam Chair?
Does any member of the board have any further comment they wish to make? Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, look, I understand your interest in supporting our community organizations. I'm trying to remember, as I recall, this is was triggered, this whole discussion was triggered by the fact that we used to, when we had large events, have every single vendor, all 20 of them or 40 of them for some given event, had to run to Anoka County, get their licenses, pay their fee, jump through all the hoops, do it whenever they choose to do it, and entity by entity by entity work out their individual math on this. But we significantly compress that. We limit it to a singular event, so the event can apply for all 20 vendors and do it in a commonplace opportunity, which streamline the process, help to protect the public, reduce the fees substantially. And the fact that somebody may come running into the event last minute doesn't surprise me that it adds to the total burden. Now, remind me if that's what's going on. I just kind of lose track of what that piece is, but I don't know that I might not be able to support this just because we've opened the doors a great deal to help so many already.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'm Laurel Hoff, Director of the Community Health and Environmental Services Department. And I think I need to do some clarification. First, we have a fee established for nonprofit community benefit entities. That's a $30 fee. So, for example, the Lions Group is a group that would be charged a fee based on what they're doing with respect to their license. Then we have an additional separate fee process for blanket licensing. And I think, Commissioner Kordiak, that's what you were referring to. We had a conversation last year about this. So what we had talked about doing was having the entity that is sponsoring the fundraising event. It's really specific to fundraising events, and having that planning entity pull together all of the vendor license applications. The actual planning entity does the most of the work related to filling out the license, and then the individual vendors complete 3 sections of a license, and they all come in together. And we did that so that we could enhance coordination around addressing the work we need to do with respect to licensing, as well as really looking at efficiency with respect to doing inspections when we're out at the sites. When you have 20 to 30 vendors, there's a lot of work involved with that. And so we were really just working hard to coordinate a lot of the effort around the work we have to do and simplify the fees themselves. So there's 2 sections related to nonprofit and community benefits.
Thank you, Ms. Hoff. Commissioner West.
I'm on a committee right now that's going through this. And by the way, Commissioner, this is for nonprofits, this fee. Last year, they had 10 that were in the last month, and it would have cost them $200. And of course, we've had some discussion about that with you guys, but I think it's a hardship, and it is a simplification for Anoka County, but it is an extreme complication for the people putting on the event. And in particular, if it's restaurants, I think this is basically for food. The restaurant already has a license with us, if it's an Anoka County restaurant. They know the rules. Before, it used to be a blanket, $30, and that covered the whole event. Now, the sponsor, the people putting on the event are required to go to these restaurants and get them to fill out these forms. In the meantime, when they're getting the vendors to come to the event, they're also calling people to ask them to sponsor it. If they're having to chase after the restaurants, who are very, very busy, don't always get to these forms, and it gets in the way of them raising their money even further. So as I know I've talked to you guys, I have a problem with this extra task that's put on the people, because the restaurants already know the rules and have a license that they have to live by.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Marcy. When the $30 blanket license for these types of activities for nonprofits was established, the $20 fee was discussed. It did not get added into the original write-up. So that's why we waited an entire year and are bringing it back this year. The nonprofit, first of all, the vendors may be licensed. However, they're bringing it outside of their licensed facility. And they need to make sure that they have the proper equipment to keep it at the right temperature in order to maintain the safety. All of that has to be checked. For any of you who have even worked at a basketball tournament for children, you know that our public health department shows up on a Saturday morning and are sticking the thermometer in the hot dogs just to make sure that health and safety is maintained. Multiply that toward, up to, 80 vendors. They have to physically go to each vendor to make sure that everything is taken care of. That takes staff time and money. And the fact that we have actually reduced it to $30 in recognition of the nonprofits, either if we were to have our public health department collecting and chasing all of this, the fees would need to go up in order to cover at least a bigger share of the cost. When they're having the communication with vendors, asking them to participate, that is the time to be letting them know part of the participation is that they have to have that, that paperwork turned in. And we didn't have an issue necessarily last year when we did the coordination, and I think our staff worked very closely with folks. Sometimes when there's a change in the person who is organizing, they may not always be real excited about doing the work, but that's part of what goes into putting on an event and maintaining the public safety. So I think that we have tried to bend over backwards to ensure that things would be taken care of in a very fair manner. It also allows our public health staff to do a lot of that work ahead of time so that people don't feel as though they are there at the event just hovering over each vendor, because comments have been made in the past that people feel uncomfortable with that. So that allows our staff to go in, do what they need to do, get in and out expeditiously while maintaining public health. So I think it really is a delicate balance, but those are all the things that were taken into consideration as part of the discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Look.
Marcy, thank you. I just want to draw a distinction. I value the work that our Health and Human Services and public health people do. It's absolutely critical. I'm not advocating to remove that. I think we certainly have to provide that function. The issue for me is simply cost as it relates to nonprofits. I think that nonprofits, by definition, are there for not themselves. They give of their time, they give of a lot of effort and sometimes their own resources and treasure to make these events successful. And those of us that have volunteered for basketball events, we know just how much time goes into these things. I mean, it is an extreme sacrifice, and these people do it time after time after time. They're totally dedicated to it. So my issue is simply, I don't know that we make a whole lot of money on this. It doesn't cover our costs, but I'd like to, in good faith, reduce or eliminate that fee for a nonprofit.
Thank you, Commissioner Look. Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you, Marcy. And my fellow board members, I'm in favor of the $20 fee. I think that although these are volunteers, although they are nonprofits, the late fee is just that. If they're on time, if they do their program the way they're supposed to do it, they're not going to pay this $20 fee. This is only for those that drag their feet, and whether they're restaurants or whether they're another type of vendor, perhaps they're even being contacted too late. But then if I'm the volunteer lining up restaurants, I go to them in plenty of time. I make the contact and I say, if you don't get to me by this time, you're going to have to come with another $20 to be part of our event. It's going to have to cover the late fee. So it shouldn't come out of the nonprofit. And I get it. I'm a member of the local Rotary Club, so we do a lot of this stuff ourselves. I just think it forces these volunteers to become a little bit more responsible, a little bit more timely, and it makes our cost effectiveness as a county agency implementing state law that much more efficient. So I will support the $20 fee.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte. Does other member of the board have a comment? Hearing none, the public meeting is adjourned, and I will turn the meeting back over to you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I would offer Resolution 2016-55.
Okay, resolution has been offered. All those in favor, let me make sure. Is it a roll call vote? Actually, it's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Opposed?
Commissioner Brassad. Aye. Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2016-56, approving Anoka County's 2016 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program, and authorizing submission of such grant requests to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Karen, did you have a comment?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for the record, my name is Karen Skepper. I'm the Director of Community and Government Relations. This is the final stop in our journey of getting our action plan approved at the county level. We have vetted funding applications. The HRA board at its last meeting approved the funding packages. I do want to point out that Commissioner West abstained from voting on the ACAP portion to avoid any potential conflict of interest or appearance of. But what you're doing today is approving our entire action plan, which is all of the narrative that talks about how we're achieving our goals, what those goals are, how many of them have been achieved in the last year, how many are being achieved this year. The resolution that's before you today really has several pieces and components to it. First of all, you're approving the action plan and allowing us to submit it. There are certifications that need to be executed by the board chair. They're included in our entire action plan packet. You'll be authorizing our department to submit our action plan to both Dakota County and HUD. You're delegating a certifying officer to sign off on the environmentals that must be done for every project. And you're allowing me to execute contracts with the cities and public service agencies. In the resolution itself, I'll just walk through briefly what the main points are. We received funds from HUD. The City of Coon Rapids is also an entitlement agency. Therefore, we we receive funds on their behalf, but we allocate them back out to Coon Rapids. They do prefer that we allocate public service funding on their behalf, so they don't have to make the tough choices and make public services come to two different bodies for approval. We've adopted a consolidated plan. That was done last year. It's a 5-year plan. Each year, you'll see an action plan. That's the portion that contains the funding recommendations for that particular year and outlines the goals and objectives for that year. We have to submit this entire action plan through the Dakota County CDA because they are the lead of our home consortium. They then pass it on electronically to HUD for final approval. We've held the necessary public hearings. We held one at the HRA level, and Dakota held one at the consortium level to cover the home projects. We did receive 3 public comments. They were duly noted by the HRA and a summary of them have been included in our action plan. We will be executing a grant agreement with HUD once they receive the final package. So what we're asking today is that you approve the action plan, allow us to submit it by executing the certifications, designating both the county administrator and myself as the certifying officers for environmentals, authorize us to execute the final agreement with Dakota County for the home receipt of funds, and that I be authorized to execute the contracts. With that, I would be willing to stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, I'll offer the resolution. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Karen. Is there anything else to come before the county board? If not, meeting is adjourned.